My new paper computer game is called Eternal Flame of Jack. So this paper computer game begins on Halloween, any normal Halloween. But this is a sequel to my previous paper computer game, World of Jack. If you'll recall, in that game, we went to an alternate sort of universe that was shaped like a gigantic pumpkin, and we found out that that whole world was Jack-o'-lantern, the real Jack-o'-lantern that, Jack-o'-lanterns are based on. He was once a man, but was cursed to wander the multiverse for all eternity. Anyway, at the end of that game, we had burned up the pumpkin. We saw that last Halloween. The whole world burned and dissolved, and we were returned back to Earth. But today, the same guy who got through that adventure, well, here we are. It's been years since you escaped the world of Jack, so that's you. You're wearing a shirt that says pumpkin suck. You haven't felt safe any Halloween since then, but tonight feels worse somehow. Something feels wrong. There's like just all these random jack-o'-lanterns all around. Your fears were confirmed when you saw a pumpkin move. It was Pumpkin Bill, though you didn't know that. Pumpkin Bill had always felt something strange on Halloween in his mind, but tonight, so much more. Something was calling to him. He had to find out what it was. Anyway, you chased him. Gotta smash that pumpkin. You see, you think he's just like one of the pumpkins from the world of Jack that you remember. But of course, this is not. This is Pumpkin Bill. But anyway. Somehow, you were sucked into a vortex. Oh. So, this is where the PCG begins. So there you are. Poof, you land on the ground. It's an unfamiliar place, and you can sort of immediately tell something isn't right. This is not Earth, or at least it's not your Earth. This is somewhere else. Anyway, there you are, and there's Pumpkin Bill next to you. And, Pumpkin Bill's gonna be like, hey, leave me alone. What do you want from me? And you're gonna be like, well, aren't you one of Jack's pumpkins? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm Pumpkin Bill. So anyway, you talk to each other and you figure out that Pumpkin Bill is actually not one of Jack's pumpkins. He's just like, an ordinary guy, except that, Pumpkin Bill happens to be a pumpkin. But anyway, so you find yourself in this weird place, and there's sort of like this trail of flames going off in this way. And you can explore that. But if you try to look at this is some weird, fruit. It's kind of similar to the pumpkin, but it's not a pumpkin. And you can see it's carved with, 3 eyes. That's kind of weird. It's some weird sort of, alien fruit. But clearly, it bears a lot of resemblances to the pumpkin. But if you try to talk to it, it's nothing. It's just a carved out pumpkin, like normal. But okay, so if you follow this trail of flames, that takes you here. Dun 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 dun. So that's you. That's Pumpkin Bill next to you, and there's a whole line of people that are going into this burning building, just throwing themselves into the flames one by one as this building goes up in flames. And the flames aren't ordinary. It's an otherworldly flame. And somehow the flame just feels really familiar. And over here, there's another one of those giant alien pumpkins. And over here, there's a giant, ordinary pumpkin. And You know, over here there's like a guy who's like just obsessively writing in a book. And over here there's some sort of like giant metal like hydrant thing. So if you let's see. So if you try to talk to the people, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like stop. You're going to burn yourself." They're like, "Must feed, must feed." And they're just like totally out of it. Now these pumpkins, if you go up to them, like you can't talk to them. They're just like carved pumpkins. There's flames coming out of their eyes, this one and this one as well. But it turns out that Pumpkin Bill can talk to them. It's like he feels a connection to them in his mind, and if like he can kind of talk to them. He can kind of like connect to them and like talk to them. So if you say to him like, "Hey, who are you? What's going on?" And like these are like the lieutenants of Jack. They'll be like, "We serve Jack. He will spread. He will burn everything." And by talking to these guys, you can find out that Jack is the flames engulfing this building. The same Jack that was that entire pumpkin universe in the last game, now all that's left of him is flame. And you see on the skyline, there's all these buildings. Whatever world this is that we're in, this flame is going to spread all across it and engulf it. And the people who live here, they've lost their minds. They're tossing themselves in, feeding the flame, feeding everything they are into it, making it bigger and bigger and bigger. Over here, this book that's being written obsessively. It's like a chronicle. If you go over and you try to talk to this guy and ask him what he's writing about, he won't acknowledge you. He'll just be like, "Must write, must write, must write." But if you read it, it'll tell you the story of Jack, of what happened to him. After the world of Jack burned, Jack's flame didn't go out. This is what you're reading in the book. So this is like the flame over here. He'd been cursed to wander the multiverse for all eternity. That curse hadn't been broken. So in other words, like the original curse that had made Jack this, extra dimensional pumpkin, the curse hadn't been broken. It's still there. So his flame didn't go out. All the pumpkin stuff had burned around him, but not the flame itself. Still, most of what made Jack had been burned away. Thoughts, memories, all of it. All that was left was hunger. He wandered for a year until one Halloween he came upon a world strong in Halloween energy. So here he is sort of like traveling between the worlds of the multiverse. So these little bubbles, those are like the worlds in the multiverse. Finally, he could feast. Finally, he could rebuild himself. He called out to all his children from across the multiverse. They could all join with him. So yeah, that is how Jack came to be back here. He found this world on one particular Halloween. This is another world that celebrates Halloween, and they celebrate it totally differently, but they do celebrate it. And because they celebrated it so intensely and with such passion, this world was just filled with Halloween energy. And because of that, it made him strong and it drew him to it. And now he was going to consume it. Consume this whole world full of people, draw it into himself to rebuild himself. Only this time, with this world, he would be stronger than he ever was before. The new world of Jack would be bigger and richer and more complex than the original world of Jack ever was. So obviously you can't let that happen, right? You have got to somehow stop this, but how can you stop this giant flame? Well, it turns out there's another pumpkin over here by standing by this hydrant. And if Pumpkin Bill talks to that pumpkin, you can find out that the people here, they celebrate Halloween in different ways. They have different Halloween traditions than we here on regular Earth do. And so, and one of those traditions is that after dressing up in costumes and, going trick-or-treating the whole night and whatever you do, or, their version of trick-or-treating, not regular trick-or-treating, you douse yourself in a cleansing water to wash, the evil spirits off of yourself. So, so this hydrant has that cleansing water. So if only you could get some of that. Well, but you can't figure out how to turn this lever, though. Like, if you try turning the lever, something just doesn't work right. You need one of these people to help you. So if you go and you try to convince one of these people, if you, physically drag one of these people over here, eventually you can talk to him, try to, slap him in the face, try to talk some sense into him. It's going to be really, really hard to get through to him. But maybe if you can tell him that, look, I'm here, serving Jack. This is what Jack wants. He doesn't really believe it, but if you point to Pumpkin Bill and be Pumpkin Bill, will look into his eyes and he'll recognize that as a servant of Jack. And so he'll be okay. And Pumpkin Bill will tell him to sort of reach down into his humanity, remember what he was, and remember how to turn this freaking lever. So the guy does it. He helps you. He helps you figure out how to turn the lever. Water erupts from the fountain. It pours over the guy, and like waking up from a dream, he wakes up. With his help, you start bringing more people over from over here. They start cleansing themselves in the water. One by one, you cleanse all the people you can grab, and together you have to stop it. So people start, getting bowls and cups. You bring it over and you start pouring the cleansing water onto the flame. But the lieutenants aren't having that. They're spreading flame all over the place. So you have to find a way to get the water over to here. You do it. You the pumpkin volunteers himself. So you use the pumpkin. You open up the top of his head and you connect him to the spigot, and you shoot the water all the way across, blasting the flames out of the building until Jack is driven out. The fire is not really extinguished, because it can't be. But at least it's been driven out of this world for one more Halloween. So, throughout all of this, Pumpkin Bill has come to understand. He's been feeling, something all this time. And now he's finally put together the pieces. At last, Pumpkin Bill understood. It was Jack whose call he'd felt in his mind his whole life. It was Jack's corrupting influence that made him briefly turn to evil back when he was fighting Evil Pear. It was his connection to Jack that made him sometimes take on the class of Jack-o'-lantern in his adventures, because that is true. In Pumpkin Bill's adventures, there is a Jack-o'-lantern class that you can take on. Now you know why that was. I may be an aspect of Jack, Pumpkin Bill says, one of his children, but I can still decide who I want to be. Jack was driven out for now, but Pumpkin Bill can still feel him. He's still out there. But Pumpkin Bill thinks he can find him. Next Halloween, he can follow the flames to their source. Then, the final confrontation could happen. For now, you two have been returned to your world. Next time, you'll be ready. Happy Halloween. Thanks for watching, folks. And PCG you later.